Al, thank you so much for joining us on the Scene podcast. For those at home listening, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Elle Kress. I run Hager News PR, which is a micro agency for scale ups.
And you've also got Worktribes as well. I feel like you do a lot of things.
Yeah, so also on the side, I run my freelancing community called Worktribes. And that's really for anybody who's in the comms industry that set up their own shop. And I launched that at the same time as I launched Hager News PR. And they've been beautifully complementing each other ever since.
What about growing up? Did you think this is what you wanted to do with your life? Like, how did you get into what you do now?
Absolutely not. Uh, so I thought I was going to be a nurse. How funny is that?
Very different. Yeah.
Yeah, really, really different. And turns out I love caring for people, don't get me wrong, but I just am not wired in that way. I am definitely an entrepreneur by yeah, just the way I am built. And I love building things and creating things. And but I do have a healthcare uh, degree, which means that the segue into PR really was through medical comms. And so when I graduated from university, I um, started out as an intern at one of the big PR agencies in London and worked in their healthcare and life sciences team. And so that's where I learned PR. I don't have a degree in PR. I very much learned it on the job. And that is the case actually in the UK is not many people come through the a comms degree route. And then I did that for about 5 years. And then my husband and I actually moved to Australia, which was initially going to be for a few years, but now it's been 10 years. And and then I had my first child, Sienna, and at that point in time, I didn't want to go back into a full-time job after I had her. And I needed the flexibility, so I decided to start my own my own PR agency, and that's how Hey Good News started.
I love the fact that you called it Hey Good News because I feel like these days there's a lot of like we know that the algorithm rewards tension and those types of things, and I feel like seeing positive news stories and stories of resilience and stuff can really inspire the right people. So I think like what you're doing is really cool, and I think like just having that part of the name must resonate with a lot of people.
Exactly. I often get asked, like, where did the name come from? And I actually launched it in COVID, which at the time I thought was the most stupidest idea, launching a business in COVID. But anyway, there was a lot of bad news happening at that point in time. And so that's a big reason why Hey Good News is called Hey Good News.
And what about like PR specifically? Like, are there frameworks and things that you learnt pretty quickly where you'd be like, I can apply this to not just medical, but just like founder stories and things like that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So my background's in Australia was working in-house at a very large tech management consultancy, and it was a very easy segue to go from big corporate PR and comms to smaller founder-led PR. Um, that transition is actually quite straightforward for a PR person. I feel like it's a lot harder to go the other way. Corporate PR is very structured. There's a lot of approval processes when you're working in a global tech management consultancy. You know, there is a big layer of approval, um, and yeah, so the it's not as fast. Whereas when I work with founders and I'm working with companies at that, seed, Series A, Series B, Series C stage, I'm working directly with founders or their CMO, and everything can happen really quickly. And because I maybe hire one other senior person on an account, we don't have that layer of junior, which I think really helps with the relationship, and the speed that work gets done. Um, and yeah, and yeah.
I think like a good thing that you said there was like the building relationships aspect, because I feel like you have to earn that trust with the clients that you work with. Hey, because if you're telling their story, you want to make it as like authentic as possible. So you can't really do that unless you know the people. Hey, so is there a
Yeah,
process around getting to know your clients
yeah,
before you tell the stories and things like that?
yeah, absolutely. And I will meet um, every single founder that I work with, and have like a brainstorming session over how they founded their story, what's their motivation, um, you know, what's the story today, what's what they're hoping for the future. Yeah, what problem they're solving is a huge one, and being able to articulate that is so, so important. Storytelling is the number one, I think, focus a founder should have in those early stages where visibility is difficult. They haven't launched a huge global product yet, so they're very much in that kind of trenches, building the business. But unless they're actually dedicated on working on their story, what it is, what's different about them, what's going to set them apart from their competitors, then no one's going to know about them. So that's essentially where a PR person like myself would come in, is to be able to nut out that story, get it onto like an A4 sheet of paper. What is, what's good? What do we need to focus on? What like would journalists care about? That's also a really another factor. I think a lot of like founders, they've been working on their business for years and they think they're the best thing since sliced bread, which, you know, which kudos, like they built something. And that's, and a lot to be admired about that. But I think you also have to think of it like somebody coming in and saying, well, yes, I think that is a really fundamental difference. And, we should focus on that element of the founder story because, you know, a journalist would be really interested in that. There's a lot of discussion and really getting to know one another and building that relationship, because I do work with companies on a retainer basis normally, because I don't like just coming in doing a 3-week project and then there's no PR after that. I think the best type of PR happens when you focus 6 months on it. You maybe get a fundraise announcement out, and then you do multiple PR activities after that. Because you've got a great platform, you've got a big media release that you've managed to get really good media coverage on, but then you've got to use that as a launching pad for supplement to for oh, for ongoing media. And that's often something that startups and founders don't realize, that it's really important to do minimum 6 months is what I advise to clients.
And I think like a thing that you mentioned, that like consistency as well, like just like you might have said your story 100 times, but I feel like showing up and still saying those stories, because like not everyone absorbs everything. Like you think you're saying it a million times, but for most people, they're hearing it for the first or second time. And when they see
Mhm,
that consistency, I feel like, oh yeah, like I get what they're about. They're not just a flash in the pan.
mhm.
And like, yeah, I love the fact that you thought of it like it's like reverse engineering. Hey, it's like what's going to make their life easy? What metrics do they yeah, what are the metrics that they have to apply, look for, and then just sort of come with different angles for the same type of story? Is that the kind of vibe? And I think like doing stuff as well, like just getting out there and creating the story and just getting that, it feels like second nature after that. Hey, like it's
Yeah,
just building the reps.
yeah, and making sure that you focus on various different channels. So as part of a PR strategy, you would be including paid, earned, and social channels. And the difference is paid is when you take out a sponsorship placement. Um, a lot of publications are now going down that route, so it's good to have some budget for that. Earned, so that's when you are really tapping into what's happening in the media at the moment and getting your kind of commentary into a story that's already going to be running by that journalist. So that's a lot of like newsjacking. It's called newsjacking. And then social. Now this is becoming much more important, but it's often left out of a media strategy. And these are looking at like platforms like TikTok. You're looking at LinkedIn is massive right now. And you're looking at, yeah, your Facebook, if that's where your customers are. Now looking at Substack now, and podcasts are very, very much on the forefront of the media landscape. And founders often come to me and say, you know, which Substacks should I be looking at, or which podcasts are where my customers are listening. So they're definitely the kind of YouTube, massive. That is a huge opportunity for founders creating content on YouTube. So there's that social side of things is really evolving. So having to think about, you know, how you can fit that into your PR strategy is really, really important.
I love that because I think like when I see brands do a good job, like they've built this social presence, and then all of a sudden they're in news articles or mainstream media, and I feel like that just takes things to another level. It feels like that out of home sort of advertising, and then people start to believe, hang on, like perception's reality. Hey, this feels big. And then
Mm,
if you're working with someone who's a good writer and can share opinions and like articulate their thoughts well, it's like that's when the newsjacking comes in handy. Hey, because then all of a sudden they're getting asked to share their opinions on things in their industry where they're put on a pedestal of like, hey, this is someone we
mm,
should listen to.
yeah.
Here's the business that they do. Do you feel like sometimes like having that spread, not just about like what the business is, but just as the person or the people running it, like
Mm.
as well, rather than just like the product?
Massively. We the founder is very much the face of a company in those early stages. So the founder really needs to be all over social media, all like providing commentary any way they can. Because yeah, definitely in that early stage, it's all about their vision, um, you know, why they started the company, like what's the direction they're headed in. Um, and yeah, and then, you know, obviously once they get bigger, the strategy is the founder will be able to start stepping back. Um, but that's, you know, later on in the growth stage. So definitely founder-led comms is massive. Um,
And
um,
you see the like the what like as say it might get past that stage there where it's like, all right, we've heard from the founder a lot. Like it's when they empower their teams, hey, to like express themselves. That's when you see the real growth. Hey, when you've got the CMO or other people in the business talking about different things, I feel like that becomes another level of trust.
yeah, so that is the goal, I think, of the founder is that, you know, they will be able um, to elevate other people within the business that very much can speak to his vision. And it's building those pipeline of spokespeople within an organization. Like, so when I start working with a company, I will have identify various other people within the business where they can own a subject. So if it's an AI company, say, we will maybe have somebody who is very much in the tech team being able to talk to, the tech side of the business. Um, the CMO should be a huge asset as well for any scale up. They should be talking around how they're like engaging with customers. What's their marketing strategy, like it. So definitely identifying key people within the company that we can elevate and talk to the brand as well as the founder. So a PR person would be able to help identify who those people are within an org, train them up. Media training is huge and very, very important. So I will always run a media training session in the first quarter of working with a scale up. Often they've never worked with a PR person before, and often not done big media interviews. So I'd offer like a half-day workshop for whoever's going to be key spokespeople for the organization, which and I, pretend to be a journalist, and we come up with, what are the key messages, and how we're going to navigate difficult questions and all of that. So I think so it's working with a PR person just gives you a really good foundation, and you will utilize those skills across, presentations to investors, um, you know, conferences that you attend. Like, being good at telling a story is a fundamental communication skill that you will use across, across platforms and throughout your career. So getting good at it, I think, is really important.
I feel too like younger people now are more open and better skilled at sharing rather than like maybe the millennials and the others where the older people where it's like it's not natural for them, where I feel like younger people these days are like growing up on socials, so it's like we know how to express ourselves and tell our stories. Do you think like then it'll be like how do you separate when everyone's telling their story,
Mm.
like how do you make yourself different or have a difference of opinion? Now I feel like some people just have a difference of opinion because they know it's going to get clicks, whether they necessarily believe it or not. Is that something that you have to help people like, no, it needs to be like authentically what you actually think rather than just clickbait or trying to just get some attention?
Yeah, I think I've noticed these new type of founders, and they're often the on the younger side, where they're literally building the company in public. They are posting daily, like, it doesn't need to be a huge thing, but it's just something that's happened that day. Or and building in public is amazing. Like, it's so authentic. It doesn't have to be polished. There's one founder in London that I have on LinkedIn, and she posts video content every single day. And I love it. I'm mesmerized by it. Because it opens the lid to a world that often people don't see. Um, they don't see, the challenges that a founder faces. But now with social media, and all this really easy video content creation that we can do, all you need is a mobile phone essentially, and you can edit on some awesome, video editing tools so cheaply now, and then upload it onto TikTok, upload it onto LinkedIn, and there you go, build your following. So yeah, it's really interesting days. And I think if you scroll through LinkedIn, there's a lot of content out there. It's yeah, I think LinkedIn is one of those places that you love or hate.
I feel like it gets too much hate, to be honest. 'Cause, like my whole thing was with stuff that I've done in the past and how I've built my audiences. It's very hard to compete on Instagram. Like I felt like that feels like a hard way to do things, and back like 6, 7 years ago when I properly started using LinkedIn, it was like it felt like here's like an untapped platform where everything feels very corporate, stale, and boring. And it's like taking that risk to just be myself. And I feel like when you're vulnerable, I feel like people trust you more and care more because it's not just showing the polished sides of yourself. Like I think people get that now, but it's like you're starting to see like performance vulnerability too, where it's like, well, hang on, like you like the crying on the videos and things, and it feels like, all right, that's maybe pushing it a little bit too far. Like the one thing I don't want to do is shove a camera in my face when I'm crying, but for some
Yeah.
people it won't.
Well, it's identifying, LinkedIn, I still think is a professional platform. And I think Instagram is kind of a level down from LinkedIn. So, if you want to be really vulnerable, I would say move it on to Instagram platform. I think absolutely, like if that's who you are as a person, and you want and you want people to see that kind of vulnerability, then Instagram is still really great for profiling founders, and I still think LinkedIn has that level of professionalism to it. So yeah, it's identifying which platform to put which content on. Um,
Yeah. What about like AI? Obviously, the last 2 or 3 years has just gone absolutely
yeah.
crazy. I feel like what was impossible before is now possible. How do you incorporate that in your life, and yeah, how do you use it and think about it?
Gosh, AI is absolutely like hit the PR industry over the head, I think, over the last year. It's absolutely transformed how we work as a profession. Um, and it's about upskilling really, really, really quickly. Like I operate on AI tools, for a big chunk of the day. I will use it for research if I am working in with a client to create like a strategy to check I haven't missed anything. It's a great tool for, if I've got any blind spots. Um, and it's great, yeah, for thinking, coming up, suggestions, but I never use it as a, this is 100% right, because I can tell you it's definitely not 100% right. Because when I ask for it to, suggestions for a journalist, it comes up with something, and I know that journalist, and I definitely know they wouldn't be interested in that topic. So, so it's still working with a human profession, a PR professional, is still so important. But then having obviously, AI to do a lot of research, and for me, I use it as a, I don't really need to hire a junior anymore, because they do everything that essentially what I would need a junior for. That's not to say juniors are going to be out of a job, because still I run a micro, smaller agency. Big agencies do still require that level of talent. But I think for people like us, solo entrepreneurs, AI has sped us up a lot. So yeah, love AI. I think is awesome. Would definitely encourage PR folk to use it, experiment with it, find ways to utilize it in workflows, but don't use it as a source of truth.
Yeah.
My
What,
advice.
what about like building stuff is hard, hey? And we mentioned off air, that's what you mentioned off air, that's why you started the community, because the support and having that around you. Was there ever a point in time where you experienced burnout, or, where you had to set boundaries because things were moving too fast and it's not sustainable?
Yeah, absolutely. Burnout is a massive problem when you're a solo entrepreneur. You don't have somebody that you can pass work on to. And in burnout, and sorry, when you're running your own business, you kind of take on as much work as you physically can, because you don't know if maybe next month that work won't be there. So um I've faced it on multiple times, and there's times when I've had to like turn down working with companies because I said I just need to have a week off, just need to have a break. And I also obviously have two children, which being a mum will always be my priority. But building a business and being a mum is really, really tough. I have so much respect for founders who also are bringing up little humans, because yeah, they there's a lot going on.
Yeah. And especially when you work remotely as well, we were talking off air, it's like context switching, and I feel like going into the office these days, you get that decompression time, like, but working in the back room, I do the same thing where I'm like, I feel like I've been in here for ages. And sometimes I think like you can overwork as well because you're not getting distracted by other stuff as well. You're just like totally locked in. But yeah, some days I walk out the room and I feel like a gremlin, you know?
Absolutely. Like the lines are a lot more blurred when you running a business from home. So there's often times when I have to go into a co-working space, um, just to, have that separation. Um, and yeah, I think a lot of solo entrepreneurs, getting an office is actually really expensive, and paying for that, and knowing that you probably wouldn't get the money back from clients. So um, there's great co-working spaces. We're actually really lucky. Like I'm in Sydney, and there's heaps of them in the city that we can tap into. Um, would be great if there was like an option for like a cheaper option for freelancers or solo entrepreneurs or founders. I've I've already kind of been having conversations with some of the co-working spaces and said like your fee structure doesn't work for some like the smaller businesses. So maybe in the future it might just be a bit easier for us to use them.
I love that. I've found myself at like the supermarket now, like instead of going through self-serve, I'll go through where someone actually scans the stuff and I'll talk to them and they're just like, just shut up, bro. You know, I'm like, I need that human connection.
Need
I
to get
need
it out. I know what it's like exactly, and tapping into community groups, and this is a really good segue onto Worktribes and why I created it is because loneliness is such a big problem with people that work online all the time, um, and so Worktribes essentially started with a few PR freelancers um, on WhatsApp, and then we just moved over onto Slack. And it's not one of those just Slack, the gravy train of Slack messaging. It's very like it's a very intentional, thought through community where we actually do trainings and webinars and in-person events, and it's very much focused on what a freelancer needs. All the tips to setting up a business. No one tells you all of that stuff before you become setting up your own business or becoming a freelancer. Like no one tells you how to do BAS. No one tells you the difference between um, being a solo trader or a sole trader or a company. No one tells you need contracts. Uh, like all of that, you're like, where do I go for help? Honestly, I had no idea. I literally just reached out to people in my network and said, what should I be doing now? Like, who should I speak to for this? And so essentially that's what Worktribes is there for. It's a marketplace. It's a one-stop shop to get everything that you need to run a really good freelancing business. Yeah, and we're seeing that obviously grow as the numbers of freelancers are just, you know, getting bigger and bigger.
Love that. We'll put all that in the show notes so people can suss that out. We like to end our pod in a really fun way. So I've got a fast five segment that I'd like to do, and literally it's just your first thoughts on these five questions. If you're ready to rock and roll, we can do it now.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I'm
All right.
ready.
What's your coffee order?
Skinny flat white.
Death row meal.
A good old roast dinner.
I like that. Favorite TV show or movie?
You know what I'm watching at the moment? Clarkson's Farm. It is,
Oh,
if
yes.
you have not watched that, it is really, really, really good. It's with Jeremy Clarkson.
Yeah, I think
I
I've
mean,
seen it last night. Come up on the previews, and I'm like, maybe I should give this a go.
it is really good.
All right, love that. Favorite song at the moment?
See, this is when you become a mum. All I'm thinking is Bluey songs.
Yeah,
Like it, I'm just thinking of all these kids' songs.
they're still good. They're still good. We all love Bluey.
I think might come back to that one.
Easy. Well, the last one here is the biggest pet peeve. What's something that annoys you the most?
Negativity. I
That's it.
am
Yeah,
a cup half full person, and trying to always, look on the bright side of things and always come up with a solution. I'm a big problem solver. Um, yeah.
I love that. Love that. Well, Ali, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an awesome chat. I feel like there's so many good insights for the people listening at home when it comes to PR, getting your story out there, and how to just generally go about it. So appreciate you jumping on and sharing your wisdom.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.